Hello, everybody. It's Mike. All right, so I wanted to share a few things. I honestly don't know if I'll get all the thoughts into one video, but I'll try. And I knew if I didn't talk about it now, there's a good chance that I might not remember later. This is how my mind works. There comes a point where I can see everything in one chunk, but it takes me sometimes hours to explain what I've seen. So I've had a deeper understanding of some things having to do with narcissistic abuse, and how narcissists function, and how we can heal. Not only the things that drive narcissistic and, by the way, codependent impulse and behavior, but also ways that we can harness that same mechanism in order to change our neurology, to change our neural pathways so that we can recover. So, what is this channel? Who am I? This channel is designed for people who have been in or are currently in romantic relationships with somebody who's a cluster B narcissist, such as a borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder. And this channel is devoted to helping them first understand where they're at, how to get out, and what you can do to actually completely 100% heal yourself of that destructive relationship. I am not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I am not a mental health professional. I do not work in the mental health field. I am simply somebody who has recovered completely from the most toxic relationship of my life, which is saying a lot. And that happens to have been a romantic relationship with somebody who had severe, untreated, undiagnosed borderline personality disorder. And so that's where I'm at. My focus, I'm only interested in one thing. I'm interested in practical results. That's it. I'm not interested in talk. I'm interested in scientific data. So I'm interested in listening to psychologists and psychiatrists who have data behind them to explain specifically narcissistic personality disorders like borderline and NPD. I'm very interested in that because that helps me. In terms of recovery, that is something else. Recovery is a thing. You know, if somebody wants to become Mr. Olympia, you don't talk to the guy who sits around and only knows how to open up a textbook and talk about what muscles are. You talk to the guy who did it. You talk to Arnold Schwarzenegger. You talk to, how do I actually lift the weights and become Mr. Olympia? You want to find out how to become, how to become, lose weight and look good, you talk to somebody who pulled it off. Those are the people you talk to. In terms of recovering from the toxic, abusive relationship, I'm interested in talking to people who have achieved that. So that's all I care about. I talk about things, I talk about my perceptions and my understandings, but it's not because I'm interested in having intellectual knowledge about how to recover and why narcissists do this. I'm not interested in that. I'm only interested in knowing that information so it can give me the proper tools to take the practical action that will give me a happy life. And that's all I care about. Are you happy? Do you want to be happy? That's what I'm talking about. This is not, as much as I respect the professionals, this is not a channel by psychologists who sit around and talk about this from a distant perspective. I watch those channels, but that's not what I'm doing. This is not a channel for people, and there's no shortage of the walking wounded out there who make these channels about, they talk about narcissism, they talk about narcissists, they talk about ways to deny your feelings and to talk yourself into being something you're not. These are the super empath, supernova, heyoka, those channels. That's for people who want to talk but don't actually have any tools to heal. I'm here, and I know I'm not the only person, I'm not the only game in town, but I'm here giving you practical understanding and practical tools for the practical result of healing. If you're not interested in doing the work, I'm not interested in you. I'm only interested if you are willing to do the work, and if you are, I have the tools that work, and all of this talk around it is designed to get you to get up off your ass and do the work and heal. So let's get into it. I've got some notes to keep me on track here. So I just recently watched a video from one of my favorite sources of information, which is Samvaknin, and he just released a video about his understanding of the cause of narcissistic entitlement. He made some really great points, and those points I agree with a lot of what he said. I don't completely agree with his final conclusion about it, which is that he came to the conclusion that entitlement is a learned helplessness. And it is a learned helplessness, so let me be clear. I agree. Entitlement and grandiosity are aspects of a learned helplessness. By the way, let me be clear about something. I am mentioning borderlines, I'm mentioning narcissists, but I am also saying that people who have been in these relationships, if you're in pain, if you suffer from rumination, if you suffer from lack of identity, if you are full of anger and resentment, as you should be, if you're full of pain, if you look back on sadness and with bittersweet longing for what you had, which is very normal, you also suffer from entitlement and grandiosity. And it's the same mechanism. Codependence, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, in my opinion, my observation, and my experience, are a spectrum of the exact same problem. So the narcissist, who is the cause of the neurosis that the codependent has, both the narcissist and the codependent suffer from the same fundamental issue. It manifests in different ways and with greater intensity. That isn't to say that the codependent has any less pain. This is really clear. Some codependents have said it's important to understand that yes, the borderline has been through this, and this, but we suffer no less pain, and I believe that's true. My belief is that, again, as I've heard Samvaknin say, I don't think he invented it, but I heard it from him. He says that the borderline is a failed narcissist. The borderline is a narcissist who was, because for whatever reasons, we could get into some reasons why, for whatever reason, was incapable of creating that firewall, perfect, false self facade of narcissism, grandiosity, and entitlement. The borderline was incapable of creating that successfully, and because the facade falls apart, the borderline regresses into this is me talking now, the borderline regresses into the infantile need/love stage, which you perceive as love bombing, which is actually infantile need, expressing itself as love. Because they were incapable of creating that, probably because they have slightly more power to individuate, although they didn't individuate, but they're farther along the spectrum towards individuation. Because of that, the borderline ping-pongs back and forth between psychopathic devaluation and infantile need or love bombing. They bounce back and forth between these two, and anything that you experience with them, they are somewhere on this pendulum. The narcissist has their own thing, but one thing they do have is this impenetrable, unchanging, narcissistic perfection, false self. The codependent, if you have been in a relationship with a borderline or a narcissist and you survived one or more devaluations, by definition, if you weren't codependent before, you are now. Because you now are operating from the same root issue, which is lack of individuation, which creates narcissistic abuse. If you've been in a relationship with a borderline and you lasted for a while, even though you took on, listen to the words I'm saying, you took on the role of the victim, you were still abusive and you were still narcissistic. A narcissist, an NPD, suffers from a personality disorder. There is a neurological difference. They do not have an identity. They dissociate. They actually have a mental illness that severely inhibits their ability to live in objective reality and know the difference between objective and subjective realities. The borderline, the same. The borderline has a personality disorder, which is a mental illness that severely inhibits, bear in mind I'm not using the word preventing anymore, it severely inhibits their ability to live in objective reality and to control bouncing back and forth between subjective and objective reality. That's what gives them a personality disorder. The codependent has the same fundamental issue as the narcissist and the borderline. They suffered abuse, neglect, which created a codependent dynamic where their sense of self and their worth is completely dependent upon what they do, not who they are. And that creates a narcissistic crisis of ego and self, which the codependent, though they are not psychopathic, they're not psychotic, they are neurotic, and they are on their own narcissistic wheel. They're on their own narcissistic hamster wheel. Okay, so we got that. All these three. This is why, even though this channel is devoted to people healing from narcissistic abuse, as you know, if you've been on the channel any length of time, you will find out that I don't treat you any differently than I do the narcissist or the borderline, that you are just as guilty of narcissistic abuse in a completely different way, even though you've taken on the mantle of the victim. All right. Now, having said that, so Samvaknin says that narcissistic entitlement is learned helplessness. And I agree in principle, except that that phrase to me sounds like it was a construct. That the entitlement and the grandiosity, the entitlement means, they deserve everything and everything. That your job is to give them exactly what they want, when they want it, how they want it. I deserve everything. This is why, you know what I mean? They're selfish. They're very childish and selfish. And we call that entitlement. By the way, codependents are very entitled, extremely childish. I get no shortage of emails from codependents, partners of borderlines who want to heal, They see my videos. They feel a personal connection with me. They will say, happens regularly. Oh my God, your story is exactly like me. You're telling me my story. And then a large percentage of those people will say, what is your email? I really need to talk to you. And I say, you don't need to talk to me. You just think you do. Here are places you can go. CODA, 911, get a therapist. There's free online counseling. I'm not going to give you my personal email. We're not best of friends. We should go out and hang out. We should have a beer together. I have some things I want to share with you. You should hear what I have to. It's very entitled. The assumption, it's incredibly presumptuous. I don't get it just on this channel. I get it in my other channel as well. But it's very presumptuous, and it shows a very childish mindset. By the way, I'm not judging anybody. This is very human what's happening here. But it means that, codependents are just as entitled. When they when they ruminate on the borderline that split on them and devalued them and discarded them 6 months or a year ago, and they're still waking up in a sweat in the middle of the night, and they have to know, where is my borderline ex? This is an entitled mindset. I need what I need right now. It's very entitled. It's very childish. It's very immature. And so I'm saying that if you think this way, you have the same issue as the NPD and the borderline, which is why it's helpful to not just point fingers at them, which I'm happy to do. We can point fingers at that because it's incredibly toxic and you have been damaged and you have been victimized. And at the same time, you suffer from the same issues internally. You just don't have the personality disorder to back it up. You have the neurotic disorder, which makes you crazy and is really causing all of your pain. All right, so I forgot what I was saying, but anyway. So he says that that this is learned, and for the same reason, because they didn't individuate. So let me really simplify how I understand it and my experience. Bear in mind, this is my experience of healing as well. So what I'm saying is I'm also teaching you what to do to heal. If you want what I have, you got to do what I've done. If you want what I have, but you're not willing to do what I do, then I'm the wrong person. You want to go learn bodybuilding from Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's going to tell you what he did. You want to do something else, he's going to say, well, then, I can't help you. This is how I did it. If you want my help, you got to do what I do. And I share all this understanding because I'm teaching you what I did. All right, so individuation. So the whole idea of the human individual is to individuate. To individuate means that you are your own person. You have an internal locus of control. And I don't care how many of you partners of borderline say, oh, I'm my own person. No, you're not your own person, because if you were your own person, then somebody else wouldn't have the power to make you feel so horrible. Whether you're borderline, narcissist, or codependent, somebody else has the power to make you feel something. And that means you're not individuated. Or more importantly, you can't stop obsessing over how you feel. Or you have to act out an impulse because of a feeling that you have. This means that you lack individuation. If you are an individual, you have boundaries, you have self-esteem, you have self-confidence, you also have tolerance of other people, and other people's emotional state will not dictate your emotional state or your identity. All right, so this is the whole point of healthy parenting. A parent has one job, and that is to help the child individuate. That's it. That's the parent's job. That's why when I was a kid, when you turned 18, a lot of parents would kick kids out onto the street. If you don't have a job by the time you're 18, well, you're on your own, bud. That's individuation. The kids learned how to be themselves. It's a lot I think it's a lot different now than it was. We could argue about that. But anyway, I need to get back to my notes so I don't get driven off the thing here. So individuation is the process of learning to be yourself. And one of the skills that an individuated person has is the ability to self-soothe when they're disappointed. I mean, I'm using these words. It sounds like disappointed sounds so mild. I didn't get I didn't, get the dinner reservation I wanted. I'm so disappointed. No, what happens when the child, the infant, is with the mother? The infant has a physical and or emotional need. They can't tell the difference, which is why narcissists can't tell the difference between an emotional need and a physical need. Narcissists, sociopaths, if you ask them what they're feeling, they might say, I'm hungry. You go, oh, that's not a feeling, that's a physical need. They can't tell the difference. Because infants have this neurological connection. Their emotions and their physical needs are all wrapped up in the same thing. Now, infants, because they are not fully grown, either psychologically, emotionally, or mentally, or physically, they don't have the ability to intellectually figure it out or verbally express what they need. The only thing they know how to do is cry. That's it. They scream, cry. That means something's wrong. I need immediate attention now. And it is real. If you do not meet the infant's immediate needs, you could literally kill them. When Dr. Spock, when I was a kid, there was, if you don't know it, there was an actual guy, an actual human named Dr. Spock who used to write books on how to raise kids. And he would tell mothers just to let the kid cry it out. It's amazing. He was teaching mothers to create borderlines and narcissists. Just leave them alone. They'll cry it out. They'll be okay. No, that's the worst thing you can do. Worst thing you can do for an infant is just let them cry it out. They're crying for a reason. And the reason is they feel they're going to die, and they very well might die. They don't have the ability to tell you what's going on. So you have to, the infant's entire worth is based upon their state of feeling. So when an infant has a feeling, the infant is filled with feelings of entitlement because it is accurate. An infant is entitled to have all of their emotions, and they are entitled to have immediate attention and compensation for their feelings. If what I'm telling you is making you feel uncomfortable, like that's too selfish, that tells me a lot about your upbringing, because that's how I feel when I hear it. And, I know for a fact my mom used to leave me alone for hours at a time. I was born 6 weeks early. At least 6 weeks early, so much so the doctors thought I was going to die. They put me in an incubator. My first couple of months of life was spent in an incubator. So that, who knows what that fucking did to me, but you can understand why I have some understanding of what borderlines and narcissists have gone through. I'm lucky that I didn't, whatever it was that happened to me didn't turn me into a narcissist or a borderline, but I came pretty damn close. So the infant has the right to be entitled to have their immediate physical and emotional needs met unconditionally, without restrictions. So we know that what creates an NPD and a BPD is that this very thing. They didn't get their emotional and physical needs met, which created a crisis, literally a life and death crisis. The feeling of being abandoned. Bear in mind that that's what borderlines especially are most worried about. Their biggest concern is abandonment. So where they are stuck emotionally, they have regressed. They are stuck in the infantile experience of I'm being abandoned and it's killing me. So that's why they continuously live this fear. That's why they split. when they split, it's a direct result of that continuous, that emotion is on a continuous loop in their unconscious mind. It never goes away. It's always there. And then when you love them, which is what they want, you love them, that unconscious experience comes to their conscious mind, and they relive the infantile experience of feeling abandoned. And if you don't meet my needs now, I'm going to die. And so because they were abandoned, they replay with you what happened with them. The strange part is that their splitting is they're actually trying to fix the problem. That impulse within them, which says, get the hell away from this person, they're going to destroy you, is actually an unconscious, ineffective strategy to try and fix the problem. They think if I split this time, I will be empowered. It won't ever happen again. That's why they don't have a normal human, it's not normal human, sorry. They don't have a normal adult, mature response of a breakup, which is, listen, we've been together for a while. We've tried this, we've tried that. I'm not satisfied. I'm looking down the future and I'm seeing that this isn't going to work for me. You're a perfectly good person. This isn't your fault. It's not you, it's me. That's a mature way. And it doesn't mean that you won't get your needs met. It doesn't mean that you will get abandoned. It just means this person right now is not capable of meeting your needs, or at least to your understanding, but you will get them met in the future by somebody else. So I'm going to try somebody else now. Thank you very much. The borderline doesn't see you as a human. The borderline sees you as the ultimate rejection, even though you haven't rejected them, of course. And they have that extreme response because they think this is the one that's rejecting me. So bear in mind, borderline, you're either the one, you're the best one or the worst one, but you're the one. You're the only one because you happen to be in their line of sight at the moment. So you're the only other person in the world that exists. It's the infant and the mother. From the infant's perspective, it's just me and mom, and that's it. Nobody else exists in the world. The world consists of my feelings and my mother. That's it. So the borderline sees you as the only person. They're trying to fix the problem. And so that's why you are the worst. You're the only one. Because they're trying to finally fix it. Which is why when they discard you, the next person that comes along is, finally I've met, this is the person that's going to save me. They don't have a normal, mature adult response, which is, okay, here's another one. Let's try this one out. They don't do that. They go right into it. This is the one. Okay? So this is entitlement. These are all forms of entitlement. And so I disagree with Vaknin's conclusion that it is a learned helplessness. I disagree. It is the natural human state. This is a natural human state of being for an infant. And it is necessary in the process of individuation. Because in order to individuate, you must first be disappointed, which, by the way, when an infant doesn't get their needs met and they die of hunger, that is what I mean by disappointment. It could be life-threatening. So don't let the word fool you. It's not as superficial as it sounds. To be disappointed can be lethal. So when the infant is disappointed, infants shouldn't be disappointed. That's just the way it is. Infants should never be disappointed. Toddlers, that's different. Toddlers, you need to tell them no. Because they can walk, they can, you're teaching them how to go to the bathroom by themselves. You're teaching them they can't have a cookie whenever they want. You're teaching them, that they're having a feeling and an impulse, but they're going to be disappointed. They're going to act like infants. When they get to be 2 years old, they're going to have temper tantrums as infants, but instead of meeting every single one of their needs, you selectively start to disappoint them. And that teaches them how to individuate. Now, that part only works if the first part was done correctly, which is the infant is given everything they want at any time and they are treated like entitled, kings and queens. They're treated like the Caesars that they are. Then, when they become, 2, 3, 4 years old, then they are not treated like the king. They are now disappointed. You give them boundaries. You tell them no. They flip out and they have temper tantrums, but because they were given all of their needs during that first phase of infancy, their narcissism was met. Their grandiosity and their entitlement was always met. Because of that, they know that they have value simply because they're alive. They know that their feelings are valuable in and of themselves. So they still respond like the toddlers that they are. They're just coming out of infancy. And so they still want to be treated like an infant, but they're disappointed. They rage, but it does not damage them because they then self-heal. They self-soothe because they know that they have value. That was taught to them the first 2 years of their life. The first 2 years of their life, they were programmed to know that their existence has value simply because you feel something. Now they're starting to learn that, my feelings the universe will not simply respond to my feeling or my impulse. I have to poop in the baby toilet. I have to do this. I have to say please. I have to say sorry, mommy. I have to grow up if I want to be included in the tribe, which means survival. And then they get older than that, and then they learn. They're fully individuated. Hopefully by the time that they're in their late teens, they're fully individuated. And when they have an impulse or a feeling, they have the consciousness to go, okay, this is not a good time to start crying because we are out hunting for buffalo right now. And if I break down and cry, then the buffalo are going to hear me and they'll scamper off and then I will get punished. I need to eat. And so it's in my best interest not to cry right now. They go, it's okay that I have this feeling, but I need to focus and hunt, right? You become a young mother and you're, caveman times, you're a 15-year-old girl and you're now a mother. You're still young and, but you learn to individuate because you want to do whatever it is, but your baby is crying. You can't do that right now. I have a job to do. I'll take care of my needs later. So, I don't agree that grandiosity and what's the other word? Entitlement is a learned response. I think it is the original response, and instead I would say it is a continuously regressed response. It's technically learned because you're taught by your parents, either because they themselves are narcissists or borderlines. They are, in essence, they are full-grown infants. And so you learn from their programming because they're going to respond just like that. So you learn to respond from them. But really what they're doing is they're co-signing and empowering and helping to create the already ingrained process of entitlement that all infants have to go through. It's just part of being an infant. They're rewarded. Every time they poop, they're rewarded. Every time they cry, they're rewarded. Every time they giggle, they're rewarded. Every time. That's like it doesn't matter who's with the infant. Everybody knows what to do. Whether you're a 5-year-old or whether you're the grandparent or whether you're the parent, the infant is going, "Aka-ba-ga-ga," and you go, "Aka-ba-ga-ga." You reward the infant for everything that they do. You're alive. We see you. You're an individual. You're a person. You're the most important thing in the world. Your feelings we reward them for that. So all that's happening, and I said this in, I think, my last one, is that the narcissist when the narcissist is doing his thing, he's, the root of narcissism is just simple immaturity. Again, that sounds so superficial, and it sounds very harmless, except for the fact that when an infant scream cries, it's not going to destroy anybody's life or destroy the world. When a 2-year-old has a temper tantrum, it won't destroy the world. People aren't in danger. It's a normal thing. When a fully grown adult has a temper tantrum, it could kill people. It absolutely horrifically destroys the other adult in the room. And so a temper tantrum is splitting or acting out. And it's not the same. It's not the same. Whosoever, the person shall remain nameless, but I remember watching on a documentary a self-confessed narcissist who thought that he wasn't being filmed. I saw him horrifically, verbally, emotionally abuse somebody multiple times in ways that triggered my PTSD. So much so I wanted to track him down and show him what pain was really like. That's me. That's really me about my brother. But there's a difference between that and a normal human, I keep using that, I apologize, a normal, mature adult who's having a bad day. Even an abusive, non-cluster B person who's mean, who's abusive, who's manipulative, there's a difference in toxicity. Because the toxicity that comes out of cluster B is unlike anything. Maybe they don't understand that. I don't think borderlines understand the toxicity of their abuse when they split. My borderline, when she was breaking up with me, was saying, I'm just breaking up with you. People do it all the time. And I said, that's not what's happening here. You're not just breaking up with me. This is what happened yesterday, and then this, and literally 2 seconds ago this, and now this. That is not normal. What you just said to me was so horrifically abusive. No, not even a bad, mean, horrible person, if they're breaking up with you, would say what you said in the way you said it when you said it. The level of toxic abuse is unrivaled. But I don't think that borderlines and narcissists, especially in the moment, understand that. And so mine would say, I'm just breaking up with you. People do it all the time. Meaning she's saying, I'm just disappointing you just like other people have disappointed you. Why are you targeting me as I'm this horrible person? I'm just doing what everybody does. No, you're not. Trust me. That is not what's happening here. To see that. Anyway, so where was I? Let me take a look at my notes here again. So let's start talking about. So grandiosity and entitlement are normal human things that only babies can get away with. Babies and little children can get away with, levels of narcissistic entitlement. Adults can't. They can't do it. When adults act like infants, it is horrifically damaging. Horrifically toxic. Not only to themselves, but to everybody else. All right, so let me keep going. I'll follow my notes so I get everything that I wanted to say. So there's a group of people whom I'm now very intrigued by. And if you want to go look them up, you can. These people are called the Hadzabe. Whoops. These people are called the Hadzabe people. They live in Tanzania, There's only 1,300 of them left in the world. There's only 300 of them that are living their traditional lifestyle. Now, these people literally live where the oldest hominid bones are found. So when you want to find the oldest humans, the oldest pre-humans, you will find the Hadzabe live there. They are a language isolate, which means that there's no other language in the world. Their language is completely unique, which means that they're probably an evolutionary dead end in terms of humans. Not that they're non-humans, but in terms of human language and culture, it means that they split off from human language and culture evolution. They split off on their own, and they're a dead end, which means that they are representative of the first humans. They still live a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. They live exactly the way even pre-humans lived. They're aware, these Hadzabe are aware of the modern world. It's not that they're uncontacted tribe. They're fully able to, if they wanted to, they know where to go to become modern. They're comfortable. People come in and film them all the time. They know what cameras are, and they know what the internet is and they know all that stuff. They just don't want to live that. They still keep to their own customs. Interestingly, they don't have a religion. When somebody dies, they dump the body in a cave, and then they hope that the body will go to the sun. They don't know what happens afterwards. They hope they'll be okay. And they want to live a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. So much so when you ask them what is it that you love the most, they'll say hunting. What is the thing you want most in life? Meat. And so they don't store food, they don't grow food, they don't have any domesticated animals except for hunting dogs. And even that, I understand, is a new addition to the way they live. They have bows and arrows. They still make fire without any, they just rub two sticks together. Their homes are built out of branches. They have, skins for. They live exactly like human beings lived 100,000 years ago. No different. Exactly the same. Why am I so obsessed with these people? People who choose to live like this. Because they represent what we still do. Now, what gives them pleasure and gives them health and happiness is the same thing that we do. This. Instead of hunting, people do this. The reason why they hunt is because when they wake up in the morning, their brain wants a task. Whether that task is making an arrow or making an arrowhead or putting a feather on the back of my arrow, or whether it's searching for grubs or for tubers or for berries, or whether it's getting up and going hunting, or the other thing they do is they regularly will raid bees' nests, and they'll be surrounded by bees, and they'll just stick their hands in and they'll just eat the incredibly healthy raw honey. It's incredibly healthy. So their whole life is based on that. All they want to do is find the animals that are going to feed them today, find the roots and the berries that are going to feed them today. And the reason why they're so happy is because we've evolved to respond to these neural transmissions, these the endorphins and the hormones that are released when we accomplish something. Every time that you send a text and you hear the whip, there's a release. There's a hormone that's released that makes you feel good. Every time that you watch a YouTube video and you click over to another YouTube video, there's a release. Surfing is a good example. I'm a surfer. Same with video games. One of the most famous surfers in the world, classic surfer, Jerry Lopez, one of the most famous lines about surfing I've ever heard. He says, "My girlfriend told me that surfing isn't a sport, it's a disease. Because it's addicted. It's addictive. Anybody who's like a true surfer is addicted to surfing. And there's never enough. You know, your whole life is based on it. I live my whole life around hunting for waves. When I'm out surfing, I surf. I am so focused on catching a wave. Look, you know, we spend hours just sitting, staring out into the horizon, waiting for a wave to come. Because when you catch that wave and you stand up and you surf it, your brain goes into this place where there's nothing else going on, nothing else exists. It's purely primal, and your brain is filled with all of these feel-good hormones. You kick out, literally, I mean, you'll have the wave of your life and you won't remember it. You will have been so deep in your primal brain that you don't remember exactly what happened, which is why surfers like to have people videotape them so they can see what they did. And it's so satisfying and so addicting that we'll stay out in the water for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours until you're burnt to a crisp, and your arms and you can't get out of bed for a couple of days. And that's because it feels good. We are designed for this. But what we were designed to do was to hunt and gather. And so neurologically, the reason why these people prefer to live this way isn't because of any spirituality, because they don't have any spirituality. They don't have a religion. It's because they live in a healthy, dynamic connection to their human neurology, which says, I need a task and I need to accomplish that task. And if every time I accomplish that task, my brain rewards me. It floods my brain with oxytocin or whatever the hell it is. Feel-good hormones. And that's, by the way, watching those guys explains to me why human beings have such a problem with sugar. Because in the wild, when you don't have sugar, berries and honey, you know, taking a handful of honey and stuffing your face with a handful of raw honey is incredibly healthy. So the body's waiting for that sugar. Whenever it can find sugar, it goes more, more, more. But when you're eating raw honey, you can eat as much as you want, you're going to be fine. Here, we drink beer, we drink sodas, we eat chocolate, and people are addicted to sugar, and that's because we're designed that way. So if we take all of that and we put it in the proper context, you have a healthy, happy person. You take those same instincts and you put it in an artificial environment that's not normal, that's not balanced, you have severely fucked up people. You have borderlines, narcissists, and codependents. The reason why you can't leave your borderline is the same reason those guys get up every day and literally chase after baboons in their bare feet. I kid you not. They run through the brush in their bare feet chasing after baboons because they love baboon meat. And when they get a baboon, they're happy. And then they go home and they eat it. Home means going back to the tree they're literally sitting under, because they don't, in the summertime, they just sleep underneath the stars. And in the winter, they make a hut out of trees and leaves. That's their home. I mean, I love watching them because they just sit there in the dirt. You know, they spend their all day just sitting in the, on the dirt, talking like we do, sitting in chairs and sitting in couches. It's the same thing. There's no couches, there's no chairs. We don't need them. We need those things that give us that satisfaction in the brain. So what does this have to do with, first off, dysfunction? In terms of your addiction, what we call trauma bonds. I like the word because it does accurately describe the oxytocin and everything that, the trauma makes you need to solve a problem. So just like the hunters, they could, if they wanted to, go live in the farm, and then they'd have rice and food, and they could raise cows and pigs like everybody else. The government wants them to do that. Everybody wants them to just become like normal people, and then they could sit around and get fat on cornmeal and, like everybody else does. And, but they don't want to because it's not satisfying them. It's not fun. What's fun is living on the edge, not having anything in reserve, not owning anything, not even matches, and getting up in the morning and either, finding a bird to shoot, or, a deer, or, their favorite thing is to literally chase after baboons and throw rocks at them, and have their dogs chase after them and shoot arrows at them. That's the funnest thing they could, that's for them is surfing. And I get it. I totally get it. The rush of it, the feeling of, because in surfing isn't perfect. You don't catch waves. You don't catch every wave. And when I don't, I get pissed and I scream and I turn around and I go back. And even if everything in my body says I got to go in now, I'm tired, I'm burning to death, the sun is burnt, the skin is coming off the top of my head. I'm like, nope, one more. And so when you're in that trauma bond state, your deepest, most primal urges of solving a problem are there. The trauma creates the problem that you have to overcome. Normally, it's hunger. If I don't eat, I'm going to die. Literally, if I don't kill a baboon today, I might die. If I don't stick my hand into the African bee nest and get stung, and those guys, they just get stung. They've been stung thousands of times. Put most of us in the hospital. They just stick their hand in there, grab the iron, shove, and they don't respond to any of the pain. It's because if they don't, they're going to die. But that's how they want to live. They want to live right on the edge of living and dying. And of course, the end result is they're incredibly healthy and all that stuff. They don't have heart disease and all the other stuff that we die of. And they're happy. They don't need to create a religion in order to be happy, right? So you are happiest when you're chasing after the prey, which is the borderline. You think the borderline's the victim? The borderline is the baboon you're chasing after. You're the Hadzabe hunter running after the baboon. If you can catch that baboon, which is if you can get that borderline to love you, you'll be okay. The process of the chase is half of the fun. The addiction is half of the addiction. Then when the borderline turns back, hoovers you back, and love bombs you, then you get the wave of the endorphins. You now are eating your baboon meat, you're happy. And then you wake up the next day, you need another problem to solve. The borderline's splitting on me now, I'm going to chase after it. And you get locked into that. It's horrific and it's painful, but the reason why you stay in it is because of our neurology. We have evolved to solve problems. Which is why, on my other channel, I identify as a shaman. I'm not a priest. I'm not a pagan. I'm a shaman. And the reason why isn't because I follow necessarily a traditional shaman path. I'm a syncretist, but it's because shamanism is about a continual dynamic balance. It's not about achieving enlightenment. It's not about being saved. It's not about any of that. It's about you wake up and today nature needs to balance itself. So the shaman seeks a dynamic balance. Riding that wave, it's a dynamic balance. And that's how we're meant to live. We've taken it to the extreme. It's an ineffective, inaccurate way of dealing with our neurological wiring. So the way to heal, the reason why I tell you guys these 4 things is, and I'm telling you these 4 things will cure you. They will cure you not of your codependence, because that's just not how that works, but it'll cure you of the unresolved hunt. So what's happened is your borderline has split on you and has discarded you. You're now like that hunter who's very hungry, and today there's no other prey, but there's some baboons over there, and he spent all day chasing the baboons and he missed. He didn't get it. He's got cuts on his feet, he's got thorns stuck in his thigh, and he's hungry and he's angry. He's going to go to bed hungry tonight, and it's a real thing, because if he doesn't find food, he might die. And so he's got to figure out a way. He's going to figure out a better way, a better vantage point. He's going to stay up all night figuring out, okay, so what we need to do is actually get on the ridge above the baboon camp, and we need to then, he's going to figure out a better way, and then that's going to create its own trauma bond. He now has a trauma bond with the baboon. Until he can kill the baboon, he's now in that part of the trauma bond. When he finally kills the baboon, then he's going to be rewarded with all of these feel-good chemicals as well as actual physical, health. Because he ate some food, he's not going to die. So if you physically do these things, you can heal from that. You can get over the fact that the baboon hunt is over. You're not going to get your prey. You're borderline. The borderline hunt is over. You didn't get any this time. The borderline got away. That's what the trauma bond is. You keep repeating it over and over again because your brain thinks that your survival depends on getting that borderline to love you. For the exact same neurological reason that hunter needs to get the baboon kill or he'll die. The difference is that you don't need the borderline to live. But your neurology doesn't know that. Your neurology thinks you'll die if you don't get that person to love you. And I'm also telling you this because it's not true love. I'm equating it to this because it's the same, but it's a survival instinct. It feels like love. You have sexualized it. You have romanticized it. You've turned it into what you believe is love, but it's not. Every time that the borderline hoovers you back, every time that the borderline turns around and idealizes you in their pendulum swing, you go back into feeling like I'm going to be okay. It's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. But you never really get what you're looking for. So you're constantly in that state. It's like I do this all the time. There are times when I go surfing and the waves suck. Or I've missed it. It's the worst thing. I get up too late or I go surfing at the wrong tide or something and I've missed it. If I had been out there an hour earlier, the waves would have been great, but I missed it. But you know what? Fuck everything else. I'm going to stay out here for 2 hours and I'm going to catch every single, that's that hunter. He didn't get the giant kill, so on the way home he's going to get a slug. Don't eat slugs, by the way. He's going to get a bird and he's going to get a bat and he's going to get 3 little things and tie it to his belt, and at least he'll have something to eat on the way home. All right, so these 4 things deal with your neurology. And if you do these 4 things, you will short circuit the neurological loop you are on that is keeping you in the relationship you can't survive. It'll kill you. It's killing you now, but you can't stop. The cognitive dissonance is because your body is saying this is going to kill me, but your crazy brain is saying, no, I have to get that happy feeling again. I have to get that oxytocin rush. I have to get that feel good. I'm not going to stop until I get it. And so if you need to fix that impulse, you have to do these 4 things. So you have to first go no contact. This is very difficult because no contact means that you not just refuse to contact them. That's like the hunter being hungry, sitting in camp, thinking, I'm not going to go hunting today. I'm not going to go hunting today. No, he's got to go hunting or he's going to die. That's what you're going to be like when you go no contact. So just not picking up the phone is not going no contact. You actually have to now, as I'm looking at it now, the Hadzabe, the only animals that I know of that they won't eat are hyenas. For some reason, they've got a superstition against hyenas. They've seen hyenas eat people's corpses. I think that's what it is. So they don't eat hyenas because they represent it with human corpses. So until you can see the borderline as a hyena, then you have to do that. You have to mortify the borderline in your mind, literally. You have to mortify them. and then you won't want anything to do with them. And in order to mortify them, you must first go no contact. So imagine a Hadzabe, and there's some Hadzabe who didn't know it, and he ate, he killed and ate a hyena, and he says, no, hyenas taste really good. Everybody's going to sit him down and say, you can't eat hyenas anymore. No more hyenas. And so, he'd have to go through, he'd have to keep himself away from hyenas. You have to sit yourself down and say, no more borderline. And I'm going to make it impossible for them to contact me. So I'm going to block their phone, block their email, all of Facebook, social media. I'll throw my phone in the river. I'll move and won't give them where I live. I'll make it impossible for them to find me. That's the first thing that has to happen in order for you to start going through withdrawals, which will change your neurology. Then you have to replace that. You have to replace it with something else. So step 2 is, so that's first step is no contact. Step 2 is you must work all 12 steps of coda.org with a sponsor. You can't do it alone. If you do it alone, it doesn't work. Then sponsor someone else. This isn't about karma. It's not about doing the right thing. It's not about any, you can tell yourself that if you want. It's not untrue, but that's not what this is about. What I just described will change your neural pathways. And it will change your neural pathways. It will sever your addiction to the borderline or to the narcissist. Number 3, you have to get a therapist. You have to get a therapist because a therapist is going to help you understand your unconscious mind, which will show you the root of where you mistakenly associated the borderline with your survival. Now, the Hadzabe are actually accurate when they associate their survival with finding the baboon and killing the baboon. Their survival depends on that. Their survival depends on sticking their hands into a tree filled with a bunch of angry African bees that are stinging them and shoving their face full of raw honey. That's something they need to do or they'll die. They need those B vitamins. Raw honey is filled with so much powerful antioxidants, antiviral, antibacterial. Makes total sense why they live out there with nothing and they don't suffer from any diseases. Of course not. They're running every day. They don't eat fat. They don't eat processed foods. They don't eat, grains and sugar. They're eating berries and tubers and meat and grubs and honey. It's the healthiest possible diet a human being can have. And they do that, and it's connected with their mental neurology of survival. So it works. You've got this going on. You've connected that same life and death survival to an individual that's harmful to you. So this is why it's so toxic and why you can't walk away from it. And then step number 4 is you have to do some kind of daily meditation. Daily meditation can be walking in the woods, it can be practicing Tai Chi, it can be swimming, it can be surfing, it can be praying to Jesus, it can be praying to Satan, I don't care. It can be whatever you want, which is really just step 11. But that is all about your neurology. Every time that you meditate and look at things objectively and you separate your emotions from your objective mental processes, you are teaching your brain to individuate, you are teaching your neurology. This is all neurological. It's not spiritual, it's not about morals, it's not about being smart. Those Hadzabes are probably very smart people, but they have no need to understand, the philosophy of this or the the physics of that. They don't need any of that. They need to know how to satisfy their physical needs, and their neurology is helping them in a positive way. It doesn't matter what anybody does. Somebody wants to become president. They're following the same neural pathways that the Hadzabe is following when he goes, on the hunt. In fact, if you want to be the chief is the guy who's the best hunter. So it's all practical. And so there's this payoff in hunting and being successful in hunting. When you hunt, you're the chief. So if somebody wants to be the best, they want to be a famous actor, they want to become president, they want to, whatever it is that you do. The reason why people, business and money and all of that, all this stuff is that same thing. It's just that same neurological process with a different face on it. We could make the argument that human beings are too successful, because now that we no longer need this neurology that the Hadzabe need to survive, and it works really well for them, we have that same neurology, but we don't have the same outlets. I mean, wherever you live, especially in the developed world, I work from home, and I see there's a street out in front of me. It's one of the main streets, and there are people running up and down the street. Now, we're used to that. It's called jogging. We're used to that. You know why people jog? It's not because of being healthy. They tell themselves that. That's not why. The first hunters, similar to these Hadzabe guys, the first hunters in the world, the way that they would hunt is they would follow the tracks of a deer or an antelope, and they would keep following it. And they'd make noise as they're following it so that the animal would run. And then at the last part of the hunt, whoever was the fastest runner would start jogging and following the tracks and jog behind the animal. And the animal would see him coming. And the animal, which is, these animals which you would think would outrun a human, they're only good in short distances. They're very fast, 30, 40 miles an hour. They're very fast for a few hundred yards, and then they run out of steam. Humans can jog for 10, 15 miles at a pace. And what ends up happening is that the whatever that is, the antelope or the deer or whatever the hell it is, it would literally have a heart attack. It would fall down having a heart attack. And then they would just throw their spear in it and kill it. And then they would do this ritual, whatever, to put its soul back into the ground, etc. But point being is that people still jog today. People jog. They like jogging for 5 kilometers and for 5 miles and 10 miles. And they'll do that on a daily basis because their body is designed hundreds of thousands of years to chase after animals until they fall dead from a heart attack. All the wiring is in there. The reason why people get runner's highs, why do you think the body has developed a runner's high? Because when you're getting the runner's high is exactly when the impala is starting to run out of steam. So the body says, we'll throw these endorphins so that the humans will have this runner's high. Why is it you get such a high off the borderline after they've totally, completely demolished and destroyed you? But then when there's this hope, you get a runner's high. You get a second wind and it's all going to be okay. It's because you're operating from all the same neurology. There's no difference. Okay, so those were my thoughts today. The narcissistic entitlement, which by the way you have, and narcissistic grandiosity is not a construct. It's not something that is created. It is, in my opinion, and I think common sense backs me up here, it is the natural state of the infant. It is a normal, healthy state of an infant. And when that state is honored, the infant now has the ability to then learn how to be disappointed, self-soothe, and then individuate, which means that when they're adults, nobody else can take away their happiness. Nobody else can take away their success. Nobody else can take away their ability to know what to do to take care of themselves. They'll have boundaries. They will know intuitively when somebody is unhealthy, and they'll stay away from them. And this all happens because they were entitled, egocentric, grandiose infants. And the borderline and the narcissists simply didn't get a chance to individuate, so they're regressed. They keep regressing back to that infantile state, and that's why they operate from that. All right. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. Let's see. George Buffetis, how long have you been on my channel? Did you listen to me when I talked about the 4 things to do? What is number 1? No contact doesn't mean that you simply don't call your borderline ex. It means you block your phone, you throw your phone in the river, you get a new phone number, you block them on every possible means of communication, you move out of your house, you call the cops, you do whatever you have to do to keep them from contacting you. So if you're watching this channel, you say you've watched all my videos, you say you're still going through the sick card, I think you mean discard. What does that mean? A discard is a discard. What does that mean you're still going through it? So listen, let's cut the bullshit. I've been where you are, so I know exactly what you're talking about. The way this goes is you go no contact. You go no contact. You haven't done that yet. She keeps calling you and not letting you move on. She doesn't have that kind of power. What did I just say? You're being, I hope this makes you realize how ridiculous you're being right now. You are acting like an infant, because an infant literally is incapable of not being influenced by anybody else's mood state. You know, one of the reasons why in some houses infants are constantly crying is because underneath the surface, the people are emotionally upset. So if you have people who are very emotionally upset in dysfunctional homes, babies will be crying all the time because they aren't capable of filtering out people's emotions. They are literally influenced by everything anybody else says or does. A harsh look, a loud sound is enough to really upset an infant. So you're telling me that another human, calls you on the phone and you can't prevent yourself from picking up the phone, and then when she says whatever she says, she's making you feel a certain way? She's making it hard for you? She's not doing anything. This is you. My ex keeps calling me and not letting me move on. What you mean to say is, I keep wanting my ex to call me and I won't let myself move on. So come on. You want to be on my channel and you want my respect? Don't shove shit down my throat and tell me it's chocolate. What else? Oh, he's going to go on. So first off, I'm going to know if you've done the work. So I know, George, you haven't done the work, because if you were doing the work, you wouldn't be telling me this. So I know you haven't done anything, probably. She tells me she loves me and misses me. And so that means that it's impossible for you. It's impossible for you to go, she says that, but I know she's not capable of it. And it's not healthy for me to talk to her. She tells me she loves me and misses me, but refuses to meet. Oh my God. So you just said that she's keeping you from moving on, and yet you're the one wanting to meet with her. So you made it sound like she's doing it to you, but you're the one trying to get her to meet with you. And why would you think that's something I would reward you for? My ex keeps calling me and not letting me move on, and tells me she loves me and misses me, but refuses to meet, and tells me, I want to see you, but I don't know when. What? I'm sorry, but that is really pathetic. Don't feel attacked. I was pathetic too. That's so pathetic. Of course. Let me see. The news flash is untreated borderline is a tease and emotionally abuses me, teases me on and doesn't deliver. Oh my God, you're the only person that's ever happened to. No other ex of a borderline has ever had their borderline tease them and promise something in future fake and not deliver. It's time to do the work, my friend. The thing is, what you're describing isn't going to go away. There's no magic pill to make those feelings go away. You have to change the neurology in your brain. That's going to come from taking repeated, consistent action that you don't want to take. I mean, let me just be clear. There's a natural human feeling, and our modern society has been entitled, is spoiled, and so we think we have to feel good before we have to act. That Hadzabe, who's going to climb some rocky outcropping. By the way, baboons are nasty, fucking scary. I wouldn't want to go up against a baboon. These guys are going to climb some with their bare feet. They're going to climb some rocky thing and, step over rocks and thorns and to get the baboon. Do you think they're going to wait around until they feel like doing it? Do you think they're going to wait around until it feels good? So for you, waiting around until you feel like you want to do these things I keep telling you to do, that day's never going to come. There's never going to come a day when what I'm suggesting isn't going to be the opposite of what you want to do. That day will never come, so stop waiting for it. Just do the work. If you don't want to do the work, then get used to feeling like this, because this is all you're going to get. Even if your borderline ex dies tomorrow, I don't wish that on her, you're going to then take that same need and you're going to find another borderline. I have no sympathy for you. What do I say to people? If you come onto my channel and you don't do the work and you complain, I don't have any sympathy for you. I don't have any sympathy for you, George. I've given you the tools. If you want to take them, you can heal. If not, enjoy being miserable, because that's what you're going to get. Jameson-san, honest feeling. Wishing M wasn't BPD, reconsidering trying. Doubting my apathy declaration. I feel with intellect and desire not to be abused. I ignored any feeling of possible love, feel resistance. All right. So, again, feelings are feelings, and you're going to just get used to feeling miserable. Taking action, even though you feel miserable, while you feel miserable, because you feel miserable. Don't stop, it's never going to be okay. Truth is, it might be okay later. I'm totally fine. I don't even think about my borderline ex. But you have to act as though it's never going to feel okay. I'm never going to be happy. I'm never going to be okay. This is what I have to do to survive. That's how you have to look at it. You have to go against your programming, which says your survival depends on this abusive person to love you. You have to go against that. It's very hard. Jameson-san question. Is it a general desire for things not to be as they are? No, that is not a general desire. That's a desire. That's a result of stress, of trauma. However, it is also very common. I go through this. People who have gone through dysfunctional homes, who weren't ever satisfied, whose emotions were never really nurtured and satisfied. Nothing ever satisfies you. There's this feeling of emptiness, that everything is sort of empty and nothing really makes me happy and nothing's ever good enough. And you just have to accept that that's going to be part of life. So no, it's not a general desire for things to not be as they are. When people get what they want, who are happy, they're fully in it and they fully experience it and appreciate it. Is it a general desire for a specific want for this relationship to be possible? No, you're not looking at this rationally. You're wanting your mother to love you. The normal desire is the original one, which is, I want my mom to love me. And is it possible that my mom could love me? So when you say want for this relationship to be possible, what you really are saying is, I want my mom to love me. She never will. If she hasn't by now, she's not going to. So it's not a normal thing to sit around and want a dysfunctional person to love you. It's not. I mean, it's not uncommon, because a lot of people do it. They don't have to be borderline or codependent, but it's a very, dysfunctional thing to want relationships that don't satisfy you. And what you want is you've learned that love is chasing after what you can never have. You've learned that that's what love is. So you want to be loved, so your brain goes to the thing it understands, which is to go after somebody who won't love you properly. So you want it to be possible, but that wanting it to be possible isn't really that you want it to work. It's that you just want to chase after it. I mean, that's the part of surfing, but that's part of it that's so fun, is constantly chasing after the waves. The next wave is going to be better. Very rarely do you get that one wave and you're like, that's it. Even sometimes I'll get the best wave, and you should, I know better. I should just go, okay, that's it for today. I had the best wave. I should leave now while I've got the good wave, but I don't. I turn around, I paddle back out, and then I have an hour of crappy surfing. And then I forget the good wave. It's just normal. Jameson question, is it a general desire for things not to be as they are? Did I? Yeah. Long-term seeking, willing, surrogate. Okay, all right. I think I answered your question. Anyway, that's it for me. Speaking of which, I'm not going to surf today because I went yesterday, but before the sun goes down, the weather's beautiful. I'm going to take a walk in the rainforest and put my toes in the water and appreciate what I have. So that's it for me today, guys. I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you when I see you. And remember, do the 4 things. I know when you're doing them or when you're not doing them. And my question to you is, do you want to be happy? Then do the work. If you don't want to be happy, then don't do the work. I know you do. I know you do, because we all do. All right, I'm starting to babble, so I'm out of here. All right, guys, I'll see you when I see you.